people started to stand up for black people. Like Martin Luther King Jr., he started to stand up for African American people. Because Martin Luther King Jr. got so big, other people started to join him. Martin Luther King Jr. was not the only one. He was just one of the biggest people they know. Booker T. Washington was also one of the bigger influences over colored people being segregated, as long as Rosa Parks was a big part of it too. Racial segregation has started to come to an end in the United States. March on Washington is for Jobs and Freedom. It was held in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, August 28, 1963. The purpose of the march was to advocate for the civil and economic rights of African Americans. More than 200 people were gathered there. It was the biggest march held in that time. Martin Luther King Jr. won a Nobel Peace Prize. Even though the president did not support this march, it still happened. Many famous celebrities attended this event, including Jackie Robinson and his son. During this great event, his speech was spontaneous and lit a fire in the world's heart that will never burn out or die.
One of the people that gave him a big jump was Martin Luther King Jr. He gave people a speech called I Had a Dream. That speech was about everyone being treated equally, the blacks, the whites, any color, they were treated equally. Everyone heard him say that, and they started to agree that all colors should be treated equally. And then a little bit of people started to treat them the same way that they would want to be treated. That's why he gave one of the biggest speeches ever made.
Booker T. Washington was one of the bigger pushes to gain racial equality. Booker T. Washington gave a big speech about compromise. It was the Atlanta Compromise. It was about how Washington expressed his firm belief that blacks and whites should work together to achieve economic prosperity and racial harmony. He urged Southern whites to give black businesses a chance to succeed in their endeavors. So basically, he was an early black educator who wanted racial equality for whites and blacks and how they should work together.
Parks fought for racial equality. Rosa Parks was sitting on a bus and a white man was making her get up, but she refused to give up her seat. Rosa Parks organized a bus boycott on the same day she was convicted of violating segregation laws. The bus boycott was led by Martin Luther King Jr. Rosa Parks was the spark that ignited the civil rights movement. She was the first one to start protesting against racial inequality. Rosa Parks was also known as the mother of the civil rights movement. When she started the bus boycott, she lost her job and received death threats. In 1999, Rosa Parks received the Congressional Gold Medal of Honor, the highest medal a civilian can. Luther King Jr. His birth name was actually Michael, not Martin. He entered college at age 15. He received his doctorate in systematic theology. His I Have a Dream speech was not his first at the Lincoln Memorial. King was imprisoned 30 times. He nearly escaped an assassination attempt a decade before his actual death. His last public speech foretold his death. His mother was also slain by a bullet. George Washington is the only other American to have their birthday observed on a holiday. There are nearly 730 streets in the United States named after Martin Luther King Jr. Interesting facts about Booker T. Washington. He was an educator. He was the first African American man on a postage stamp. His middle name was Taliaferro, or T for short. His father was a white plantation owner. He never got to meet his father. He was the first African American to be invited to the White House, not including servants. He was married 3 times. He wrote 5 books. He was born in 1856 and lived till 1915, and his middle name is Italian. Rosa Parks. Both of Rosa Parks' grandparents were former slaves and strong advocates for racial equality. Rosa Parks was in the small percentage of African Americans who earned high school diplomas. She became active in the civil rights movement 12 years before she refused to give up her seat on the bus. Parks spent many years traveling through Alabama interviewing victims of discrimination. The bus driver who called the police and arrested her had given her trouble more than 10 years before. Racial equality has been going on for far too long. Finally, after many years, racial equality has started to come to an end in the United States. Although there are still some problems, it has mostly gone away. There are so many people that have tagged along and made a huge difference in our world today. Without these people, this world would be drastically different in a bad way. There are still lots of things that everyone needs to work on. There are also still many countries that have slaves. This is how racial equality is coming to an end in the United States.